vitalism understands this reality that the body's more than the sum of its parts, right? That there's a live body and a dead body. They have the same parts and pieces. One has that thing, that spark of life in it, all right, that we still can't necessarily even define perfectly, but chiropractic operates out of that principle that the body is a self-healing, self-regulating organism that desires health, desires healing. That's our premise, okay? Now, from that, we understand that the brain and spinal cord are the master controlling system of the body. Again, I think that's in Grey's Anatomy. We would all agree with that, right? That's how our body is designed. Now, that happens to run through the spinal cord, and then out of the spinal cord comes all the nerves, the peripheral nervous system, and then that goes to all the organs and tissues and cells in the body. We look for pressures in that. In a very strict chiropractic sense, we're looking to analyze the nerve system for pressures, for interferences, and then to balance that or remove that. We don't believe in and this almost starts from the beginning, Doc. We don't really believe in treating it. Those words almost are trigger words for us, right? We look at it like removing interference so the body can do what it's designed to do. I will often say, I've never healed anybody, right? Meaning the body's designed to heal, remove the interferences, and then the body just goes back to normal. Now that's kind of more of a philosophical type of take on things chiropractic. I went to a very medical minded chiropractic school, and there's these more vitalistic based chiropractic schools that are out there. So that's why you're going to have some of this spectrum of approaches in that. And now many doctors, including myself, we also get into lifestyle things. That's not chiropractic specific, right? We don't own nutrition. We don't own fitness. We don't own detox. But many of us do that because we understand that there's value to that in an overall healthy lifestyle. So chiropractic in its very strict sense is removing pressure from the nerve system. Now, some use a very hands-on technique, right? Making noise, cracking, popping things, that type of stuff, neck adjustments. I do those on a daily basis. And then there's very low force techniques, very light techniques, right? You were talking earlier about some of the other Eastern stuff, right? From Reiki to massage to, that's not chiropractic. I mean, it's valuable, but some chiropractors use their hands and make noise and things like that. And there's a lot of techniques. There's a lot of analyses, but all of them are designed to remove pressure from the nerve system. So I don't know if that answers your question a little bit there, Doc, but get us started at least.
It does. I do want you to be able to answer the best you can. What do you mean when you say the body is designed to heal?
Yeah. So thank you for that opportunity. I would say this, the medical term, I don't think it's not that weird. The medical term is homeostasis, right? The word you're going to see in a textbook maybe is the double feedback loop. The fact that I'm sitting in a room right now that's 72 degrees, but my body temperature is 98.6, right? It's doing that without my conscious awareness. We talked about the broken bone. The fact that somehow that body knows how to re-knit that bone together. The fact that I'm going to take my lunch from yesterday and assimilate that into parts of my body and, excrete out the excess that I don't need. The fact that those, if you have children, right? You've got children, I've got children, that somehow those were grown inside of my wife's womb without any doctor doing that, right? You're in a very real way, your body is incredibly, now I come at it from a faith perspective. That's not a requirement. It's just the reality when you see that there is something's intelligent here, right? There's a very much a design. Matter of fact, it was one of the big things that happened to me in chiropractic school was when we worked on human, cadavers, people that had donated their bodies to science. And when I opened up the body, I mean, it's a morbid conversation, but you do that. And I remember seeing the inside of a human body for the first time. And it literally was one of those stopped me in my tracks moments. You can't look at that intricacy, the trillions of cells in our body that are operating right now for me to hear you or see you and formulate words and have a memory and walk across the room. That's not being done by me in the sense, right? That's holding me together and hoping and beating my heart while I sleep tonight and waking me up in the morning and remembering yesterday and all those things that we just call normal biological processes. That to me is ordered. There's a design to that. Now, do things happen? In chiropractic, we say that there's limitations to matter, meaning I can jump off my garage roof and I won't probably die. But if I jump off a skyscraper, right, I'm going to reach a limitation of matter. It's the same thing with a medication, right? A little bit your body might tolerate, but a lot of it is going to likely kill you or overdose you. Okay, so we live in this band of the limitations of the design that we have. All right, and then our premise would be let's work with that. Let's give the body what it needs, and then remove the excesses or remove the toxins. So it's a kind of a deficiency or a model or a toxic model. And so I don't know if that answers it, Doc, but
It does. I've spoken to this previously on the podcast, and I think it's part of my beliefs. I am amazed by human potential.
Mm.
For us just to be here, you and I, all of us, what had to have occurred throughout human history, our ancestors would have had to procreate before they died. And how the body, how beautifully designed that is to survive and thrive. And we can talk about it in terms of an intelligent design, or we can talk about it in terms of what people view biologically, the adaptation to be able to continue to survive. And it is, when you consider the existence of human beings, what we're doing in modern society with modern medicine amounts to an experimentation. And so my question for you is, do you believe what we are actually doing in the allopathic medical model, is that interfering with how our bodies have adapted and how they are designed to heal? In fact, that it's actually creating sickness.
Not only do I believe it, I like wholeheartedly believe it. I believe it more every day that I exist. I think that that what you described, if I'm hearing you correctly, I think it's actually a major part of the problem. And I'll give you a couple of just statistical reasons I would say that. One is, and you probably saw it a couple of weeks ago now, maybe 3 weeks ago, article came out published in the Journal of the American Medical Association that showed the decrease in life expectancy has dropped again significantly. For men, it's now down to, in the US, it is down to 73.3 years. This is insane. 6-year delta between women. This has happened mostly over the last 4 years. Last time it was reported, we have a 54% chronic disease in our children. 54% of our kids have a chronic disease. This is by the CDC. That's medically defined as a disease, a label, a diagnosis they will have for the rest of their life. That's how it's viewed through that lens. We take more drugs than we've ever taken. We take more shots than we've taken. We see more doctors. We take more pills. We do more tests. We've unfolded the genome. Yet we're a sicker people than we've ever been. Okay, now there's some nuance in this that we can talk through potentially later in the show, but I would absolutely tell you that the major contributor to disease and a very specific is absolutely our approach to healthcare. The model we call healthcare. When you apply a sick model to healthy people, you get sick people. You've written about this, the medicalization of society. I mean, this is that's just as big of it. It's the medical thinking. It's that people don't perceive themselves as designed to heal. They don't see that they're built to thrive. They don't understand the trillions of things that are happening right now for them to even exist. Instead, they're in fear. They think, oh my goodness, where am I going to break down? I can't handle the air outside of my house without a mask on, or some version of this, if you will. And so I wrote something just on my phone the other day. I don't know how you do it, but I guess get like a thought flash and I write it down so I don't forget it, because of the older I get. But I said, it was something like this. I said, we've got this whole thing backwards. Like it's so much simpler than we've made it, right? This experiment we're in is, let's synthetically medicate people to mask symptoms with some illusion, faith, belief that is going to be better than caring or stewarding what already exists. I use the example of a fishbowl, right? So if a fishbowl is our environment and a fish is in there, and the fish water is dirty, the fish is going to get sick. This is not a earth-shattering metaphor here. And so it would be ridiculous to then medicate that fish for his fishy depression or his fishy fibromyalgia or his fishy headaches. Okay, everybody would understand that we should simply clean up the water. The best shot that fish has at a healthy, long, wonderful life that he's designed to have is giving him the right environment. We've done the opposite. We've destroyed the environment, but literally, like our around us. But I'm also talking almost just our internal environment, right? The foods we eat, the stress we put ourselves in, these types of things. And so, what if it's all backwards? What if we have the whole thing backwards? Now, let me make one quick caveat. I'm not talking about emergency traumatic medical care. That's not this discussion. But by the way, my friends, that's only like 3% of healthcare. Okay, so like I'm talking about all the rest. Okay, so if you you fall off your roof and break your neck, like, don't eat an apple. You know what I mean? Like, go get the best acute medical care you can get. But other than that, which is everything else we're talking about here, I would say that our medical care is absolutely and I'm not alone in that. There was a great study, Journal American Medical Association, 2009, Dr. Kelo and Larson, and I'll paraphrase their quote, but it's pretty close to this. I use it all the time. It says we have to, and the headline of their article, and you might be familiar with it, was the understanding the harmful effects of healthcare. All right, and they just added up the total populace of healthcare in the United States, and they said, is it working? Is the ROI there? And they said we need to deal with the assumption, many of the assumptions in healthcare, and that it's actually probably causing more harm than good.
I think there's no doubt.
Right.
There's no doubt.
It's like, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
My challenge is this, and my brother's a smart, reasonable person, but I put him in that camp of somebody who just kind of blindly just followed recommendations without a second thought and accept a lot of things to be true because there was a trust in authority. Me personally, I can't stop but looking at how the population has changed since I was a kid. The rates of obesity, the amount of people getting sick. I just recently wrote a Substack on traditionally the concept of clinical depression was rather rare. Never more than 3 to 5% of a population would be identified as depressed at any one time. Those who would be identified as severely depressed would be even less than that. So much so that psychiatrists were a profession that were on the verge of extinction. You just didn't need psychiatrists, right? Now we have over 20% of the US population identifying with a depressive episode, being depressed in a given year. We're looking at like 250% increases. Your statistics about chronic disease are absolutely correct. But they continue to push us down the same path. The same exact system that is implicated in making us all sick, we're supposed to blindly follow those recommendations. And I'm down on humanity because they just continue to do so. It is basically controlled by fear. And that's a whole nother conversation for us today, is the role of fear in sickness. But my question is this, and I think it's going to open up a conversation about probably trying to pull the lens back.
Yeah.
This has to be purposeful because it makes no sense, right? Human beings have this ability to deny reality, but you can't deny reality anymore. Look at all the statistics. Why would we continue to follow the same healthcare advice when our life expectancy is decreasing? Our environment is making us sick. It's clear that there's going to be a looming fertility crisis if it hasn't been developed already, because we have more than 50% decrease in testosterone. Let's pull the lens back. Why is this occurring?
Okay. Well, when we say why, I think there's a few things that we can very much, I've said this before, for those of you that might be listening and I've got to take care of a lot of different people. I've got cardiologists I take care of. I've got a lot of nurses I take care of. I got family practice doctors. Like, listen, please. And I think you say this, and I'll say this again, which is, there's many wonderful, wonderful, beautiful people that practice in healthcare. This is not what this is. This isn't a personal attack, right? My brother-in-law is the president of a major hospital system, right? My mother-in-law worked for the president of a hospital for 30 years. This is not a personal attack. We're talking about a system, and it's actually part of the problem. We're so divorced from it, right? We're so many times the recommendations are just standard operating procedure. They're passed down through government or pharmacies or insurance coverage, these types of things. So, but there's a couple very specific facts that we can talk about that I think can help us understand this a little bit. One of them, and you've probably talked about this, but if we look back at what's called the Flexner Report, okay, now this is early 1900s in the United States, where, we were joking a little bit earlier. I actually think I practice traditional healthcare. What I mean is just like, right, more just natural, working with the body, the way that healthcare was done for hundreds to thousands of years before modern pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so during that time, and Rockefeller, and it's often called Rockefeller medicine, and he was in charge of helping the Flexner report come along and funding that. And there was this reality that they were going to put all of their money, if you will, and I'm generalizing over this, but they said we want evidence-based medicine. We're going to fund the medical schools. It's going to be, and when we say evidence, by the way, we mean our evidence and the way we want to be it, and it's going to be biochemically, synthetic chemically, a lot of it by petroleum-based, products, of course, which is no surprise with Rockefeller. And at the time, honestly, he had a lot of money and he had a lot of influence, and it's no different today. We think those names are old names because we don't hear of Rockefeller so much, but oh my goodness, the names may change a little bit, but we're still seeing the exact same implications in healthcare, whether it's a Bill Gates, if you want to throw that name in there, or other pharmaceutical industries. So there has absolutely, and like I mentioned earlier, that's why this is historical reality. We won in court against the AMA because they were trying to destroy the profession of chiropractic. Like, they wanted us gone. The only reason we survived is because what you mentioned earlier, Roger, is results. Sick people got well. All right. And because of that, it's always going to win. The truth is going to come out. But there is absolutely an agenda. I've read countless books on this from former heads of pharmaceutical industries that literally said, one of them was one of the main guys at Merck, one of the past presidents. And he said, I've always envied Wrigley bubblegum, where there's a product that people take multiple times a day, right? I want my company to be like that. I want them to take something in the morning. I want them to take something in the afternoon. I want them to take something at night. People often will ask me, well, why isn't chiropractic coverage better under, covered up better under insurance and these types of things? And maybe you guys hear that in your world. Why don't, if your approach is so great, why don't more people cover it? Those types of things. And the more you ask these questions, it begins to reveal that the people that you call healthcare, the insurance card you carry in your pocket, the pharmacy down the street, it's often called the medical industrial complex, just like you might understand the military industrial complex, the war machine, if you will, these kinds of ideas. It's, my friends, the pharmaceutical industry and insurance industry and big government, that triad of tyranny it's worse than you even think.